Let's begin our first session on what's ahead for the Philippine hotels by introducing our two esteemed panelists. Our first panelist is longtime friend Bruce Winton, multi-property vice president for the Philippines of Marriott International. Bruce has been with Marriott for over 30 years, having worked his way up through the ranks from culinary intern at his first hotel in Hartford, Connecticut in 1989. As a multi-property vice president, Bruce oversees 5 international brands in Iloilo, Clark, Cebu, and Manila. Marriott Manila last year was recognized by Marriott Asia Pacific for its F&B leadership and innovate. A true measure of Bruce's leadership in these times of crisis. Thanks for joining us today, Bruce.
Thanks, Rick.
Pleasure to be here. Our second panelist is Cleofe Albiso, Group General Manager of Megaworld Hotels and Resorts. Cleofe is responsible for operating 11 existing properties, nearly 4,000 rooms in the Megaworld Hotel portfolio, one of the largest in the Philippines. She is an accomplished hospitality professional. In fact, before joining Megaworld Hotels, she became the first Filipino general manager of a Marriott International branded property in the Philippines. Cleofe graduated magna cum laude with a degree in education and mathematics. Welcome, Cleofe and Bruce.
Hi, Rick. Thank you for having us.
Welcome. To kick off the questions for Bruce and Cleofe, in general, obviously we've been hit with a number of black swans globally, and one of the hardest impact has been in the hotel sector. How's business been going for you and your hotels since the pandemic began? And how did you pivot and innovate during the pandemic?
Well, let's do ladies first. Cleofe, off you go.
Yeah, so the COVID pandemic has been a journey that we never expected we'd ever go through, right, Bruce, in our lives and our careers. So when asked about how our business is going, we are thriving and surviving. It's been a roller coaster ride, Rick, and there are a few things that have been proven effective for us to survive. And for the case of Megaworld Hotels and Resorts, where we have 4,000 room keys and 11 properties, we did survive with a lot of synergy amongst our leaders, amongst our associates, when the total room inventory needs to be managed. So there's a lot of task force going on. In fact, we just recently opened our Kingsford Hotel Manila, and a lot of help coming from all the other properties really helped us survive opening in the time of pandemic. If I were to summarize very briefly what are the things that we did innovatively and creatively, and I'd say it's our Safe Stay campaign, our Vaxxed and Ready program, our efforts to go digital and really put some efforts on training our people, as well as some eyes on new market segments that we never touched before. In the Safe Stay program, we've been keeping an eye on really following through what the government mandates us to do, keeping an eye on what is allowable by the IATF. And of course, it has been mentioned by Secretary Berna about the Safety Seal certification, the WTTC safety stamp. We've all put an effort to that so that there's some reassurance of the cleanliness and sanitation when people stay in our respective hotels. And when we talk about our Vaxxed and Ready program, we have really put an effort to encourage our associates to really support us with the vaccination campaign. And simple efforts of putting a Vaxxed and Ready pin to also give some reassurance to our guests are also part of the program. One of the things that we were able to do, given the inspiration of our bigger companies here, including Marriott, of course, is our digitalization. We launched our e-concierge program. We were able to find time, Rick, to innovate. And this is a program that allows our guests to do web check-in and check-out, as well as online ordering of our F&B orders, also cashless payments, even surveys are available online. And this gives some reassurance to our guests as well, that we can continuously make efforts to really create that platform where there's limited person-to-person contact and using our innovations. The market segments I was talking about are, of course, the segments that we never used to tap. We admit that we are actually hosting some of essential business, supporting the national government and the DOT in the quarantine of our returning OFWs, as well as really creating business opportunities for hotbox deliveries and food deliveries like we never did before. So much opportunities were given to all our F&B departments to really be creative in what we can bring to the comfort of the homes and offices of all our guests. We also innovated through our virtual event management platform, and we did have a lot of efforts in also repurposing some of our hotel spaces, and that's under our office on demand. Other than that, I think we thrived in a lot of consciousness for cost saving measures like we never did during our pre-pandemic times. And you know, the ADR is not there, the top line is not there. So we all have to be creative and making sure that we all survive and operations can be kept afloat despite the pandemic.
So that's some amazing pivots and some great success stories there, Cleofe. So definitely some inspiring stories there. Bruce, what are your thoughts and talk about your pivot?
Yeah, well, I tell you what, letting Cleofe go first is always a good idea because she covers most of the hot buttons, you know. Not much more to add to that. You know, I mean, I really think she just about encapsulated all the things that we're doing, you know, just seeking out new market segments, being able to support the government with the inbound and outbound quarantine business, at least in the gateway markets, a little bit harder in some of the resort locations and in the provincial locations. But you know, workforce innovation has been a huge thing. Obviously, there has been a shrinkage in our sector, which has had devastating effects. So you know, workforce wellness, support, health and safety have been hugely important to us. I've spent a lot of time on that. There's an increasing focus on sustainability. So we've taken, you know, we're not going to call it downtime because I think we'll all agree that we've all been busier than ever before. But it's certainly down from a financial perspective. But we've certainly, we've been focused during this time on how to position ourselves for the future. And you know, I think the most optimistic learning or outcome from the last 18 months is our view of the future and basically our opportunity to make back what we've lost in the last 18 months and then some. So, you know, all of these innovations, new business ventures, workforce innovation, efficiency measures, focus on new sustainability projects, all of that will come to fruition and provide some well-needed catch-up in the near future. So the future is bright. There is a light at the end of the tunnel, and everything that we've done will help us as we emerge from this to come back better and stronger. And I think that's really the key.
Thank you, Bruce. And then we get weekly updates from Bruce. We sit on a few boards together, including AmCham. So Bruce has been in the thick of it and come through it extremely well. So thank you, Bruce. Next question, Cleofe and Bruce. In terms of leisure travel, what will this look like over the next 6 to 12 months, especially for your hotels outside of Metro Manila, and what's going to happen with events, etc.?
If I may start again.
Please.
We have the Twin Lakes Hotel in Tagaytay, and of course our properties in Boracay, in the New Coast Boracay development, as well as our hotels in Iloilo, and of course here in Mactan, where I'm currently in, Savoy Hotel Mactan. It's been erratic. It's like a switch on and off, depending on the classification that's given to us by the government. We have tried to survive given the programs that we keep on preparing, that in case we are on GCQ, this is what we're going to implement. In case the government allows us to operate our restaurants and food outlets with 30% capacity. And then all these are just going to be prepared and switched on in case we have the go signal to do it. And there are a lot of talks on the full opening of our leisure business, but we're going to take it in paces according to Secretary Berna. As a group in Megaworld Hotels, we have tried to stay in touch with our clients. It is very pertinent now that we proactively inform our guests of what to expect when they travel. So what are the travel restrictions? What are the travel requirements? Whether they need to swab in a certain area or an antigen testing will just be doable. These are the things that we provide. Of course, we have our social media platforms to keep them informed so that the travel experience, despite the challenging times, is yet still managed from point of booking up until arrival. And we also make sure that we remain flexible, Rick. There's so much fluidity in the rebooking options, especially in the changing classifications of the quarantine. And there's also some effort to actually inspire people to travel. I have seen one of the posts of Belmont Hotel Boracay that actually just showed to us the beach. And you know how the beaches of Boracay has transformed now. And just a very quick, short 30-second video showing how Boracay beaches are now actually gives us an inspiration and to look forward to the day that we will be allowed to travel. And probably the last is now we see that in the next 6 to 12 months, there will be a lot of focus, not just on group travels and staycations. There will also be some eye on the segment of families traveling together, and of course, couples and even solo travelers, of people that are needing just the simple change of scenario to keep afloat and keep us sane, I mean. I think those are all the efforts that we can keep doing so that we can answer what is in store for us in the next 6 to 12 months of leisure travel.
Thank you, Cleofe. Bruce, what are your thoughts?
Well, yeah, it's. I mean, I think I should preempt this with my disclaimer that it's an incredibly difficult job the government has. You know, implementing. I know there's a lot of reactions to the announcements and all the changing restrictions. We all have opinions about it, but it would be very difficult to be that decision maker. You know, because every decision has a set of consequences that go along with it. You know, and the health versus wealth conversation is going to go on for a long time. So, you know, but I do think that all the industry as a whole, we're all prepared for the future. I think, you know, we have had these little bright spots and then things have changed. So I think consistency, consumer confidence will be important. The willingness is there. Everybody wants to get back out and celebrate milestone events and have dinner with their family, travel regionally and internationally. I mean, everybody wants to do that, but it's a case of, will you actually do it if you are allowed to do it? And, you know, so the operators, the owners out there are preparing their facilities, preparing their marketing and their messaging, their packages and all that stuff. It's all there. And I, you know, we've had a great deal of support from DOT to help us to prepare for that. But the key is, you know, consistency and an understanding, not only by the consumer, but by the operators of, you know, what can we really do and how, and can we do it long term? Can we implement something that we're willing to stick with? Because we need some momentum to our economy, and when it stop start, it's very, very difficult. It's very difficult as an employer and also as a business owner, right? So, you know, what level of risk is our customer willing to take, and at what point in time do they feel confident booking booking a trip, booking a wedding, you know, and knowing that it'll actually be able to take place. So, you know, that's where we have to look to other markets and learn from what's going on. You know, we heard in Secretary Priyat's presentation about the success of the vaccination effort in the UK. And I just returned from the UK yesterday. Now, if you look at the UK cases, daily cases, it would shock anybody in the Philippines. It would shock them. And to know that that economy is fully open is a reflection, of course, of their medical infrastructure, their hospital capacity, their vaccination rates, and then the consumer confidence, consumer willingness, and government support to stick with it. So it's that combination of things that will really spur the next step. You know, to look at it, I mean, obviously, to compare the Philippines to the UK, maybe, you know, it's not apples to apples, but if you look at Thailand, if you look at the Phuket sandbox as an example, that's the closest regional benchmark that we have. I think Bill will probably talk about that in the next phase with a little bit more detail than me, you know, not being from Thailand. So, but, you know, doing a little bit of research on that, you know, that's a great benchmark for the Philippines. You know, the tourism contribution to the Thailand GDP is 20% historically of total GDP. In the Philippines, it was 12.5%. So massively impactful businesses, both for, you know, employment, everything, tax revenue, you name it. Everybody's got a vested interest in the success of tourism. So they went for it, and they've taken a few chances. And when I go back to the consistency piece, unfortunately, you know, Thailand saw a late spike, you know, after having a relatively non-eventful 2020. You know, if you look at the cases in Thailand in 2020, they almost don't come off the bottom of the graph. And then all of a sudden now they've got, you know, 25,000 cases a day. Now, at that, I mean, they went literally from a couple of hundred cases a day to like 25,000. And while the government in Thailand didn't shut, you know, they made some adjustments in mainland and in Bangkok, but they didn't shut down the Phuket sandbox because they felt that the consistency piece was critical to the ongoing success. So it's you know, I won't get into too much more detail about that because, you know, but I've actually been studying it because I think it's supremely interesting to see how they handled it, how they set it up, what the protocols are, and how they've managed this increase of the Delta variant caseload, and how it's affected the decision making. So, you know, all of these things will come together to shape, you know, the outlook for us over the next few months.
Thanks, Bruce, and some good food for thought there. And I think Bill and James will touch a little bit on what's going on in Thailand and the sandbox in the next session. Yeah, clearly, if you're looking at the UK or even the US, I mean, yes, case counts are up and whatnot, but travel continues on. The airlines are full, the hotels are full, and stadiums are full, and baseball games and football games are happening. So yeah, the economy continues to push forward, and so it's yeah, there is, I guess, light at the end of the tunnel. Just a quick question to Cleofe. In terms of on the capital market side, we worked really hard in the Philippines to establish the right framework for REITs and the IRRs, et cetera. And obviously, Megaworld continues to be a leader in innovation. I understand that some of the hotel properties of Megaworld will be included in the MREIT. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
There's actually just one property that's included in the MREIT portfolio, and that's our Richmond Hotel in Iloilo. And the structure where the hotel is a mixed-use structure where part of it is occupied by office spaces leased by our BPOs, and half of it is used as our hotel facility. Although our contribution may not be major given the total aggregate leasable area that the MREIT is offering. But despite that, we're very happy, Rick, because this definitely will help in the boost of the Philippine economy. There'll definitely be more projects in the future. And of course, that means jobs for the Filipinos. So there might be in the future, but for now, it's just one. And that's the Richmond Hotel.
Absolutely. that's obviously the future of the global capital markets. We'll see a lot more cross-border deal flows as well as we move into Q3, Q4 into next year. We'll do a quick poll. Paulo's going to put a quick poll up out there, and he'll flash that up on the screen. So please proceed to answer that. And while we're filling out the poll for about 60 seconds, I'll move over to Bruce and ask Bruce a question. Bruce, health and wellness, contact tracing, deliveries, managed buffets. What are the changes in hotel operations and services that you think will stay after the pandemic, and which ones will expire as soon as the pandemic is over? Bruce.
Big question, Rick. How do I keep my answer to a minute or two? Well, I mean, safety, sanitation, all of those things have been hallmarks of the industry for forever. I just think they got amplified, during the pandemic. So they're here to stay, for sure. But the buffet will come raging back, I can assure you. Especially in our market, I think you'll see these managed buffets and modified buffets going away, and the big smorgasbord just coming back. That's what the consumer really wants. We've had those little glimpses of what it's like, and again, without sharing an opinion on it. Human nature is fairly predictable, and certain behaviors will just come right back the way we know that they will. So, certainly I think events will come back smaller for quite a long time to come. It'll be a long time before people want to gather with 2,000 other people, potentially in an indoor food and beverage event or venue. But I think certainly the tech innovations that we've seen and some of the partnerships that have sprung up between third-party logistics companies and all those things, there's a lot of win-wins there. We did a tremendous amount of learning in our industry in a very short space of time, and a lot of those learnings are extremely valuable and will remain in place. Now, will they get used to the same degree? We'll see. But we've also got an up-and-coming new generation for whom a lot of these things were not a surprise. It's just the older dogs like myself that had to learn a lot of these things. A lot of them are well known to the younger generation. So, yeah, those a lot of those technical things are technology things are definitely here to stay. A lot of the partnerships that we have, whether it's with Grab or some of the other digital platforms that we have, will be definitely here to stay. Yeah, but I do think that the traditional hotel resort experience will come back very similarly to what it did before, with just this escalated focus on health and safety. Yeah, let me see.
Great stuff.
Yeah.
Great stuff, Bruce. Final question, real quick, because we're moving on to our next session. But two there's one. Where will you be traveling after this pandemic is over? Traveling first, hopefully in Southeast Asia. And what's the best advice that you've been given, and kind of the soul searching thing you might have learned, that either advice you've been given or advice you can give to a lot of the people out there in the hotel industry who probably had some of the tougher times in the length of their career across their lifetime. So, Cleofe, Bruce, last nuggets of wisdom.
I won't be somewhere in Southeast Asia if given the chance to travel, Rick. I'd definitely be off to Ireland or Norway, where my sisters are. And of course, we get re-energized when we reconnect with our families. And if I have to share something that I got to realize over this pandemic, I'd summarize it with PRAY, and that's pray. Pray in the essence of the action verb. And of course, that's also, for me, that's preparedness. And of course, there's relevance. We have to be always relevant and always be close and be reminded of your why. And that's my why in the pray. And that's WHY. Our purpose now is really to keep afloat. We might not have the bottom line that we used to have, but our why is definitely to keep going for our owners, capture their trust that even in the most challenging times, our leaders are very well equipped on how to navigate to keep the businesses afloat, and for all our associates that they have food on the table, and that means a lot to us.
Very good. Excellent advice. We're all gonna pray now. Thank you, Cleofe. Bruce.
Well, travel for me, I think it's I share the sentiments of Cleofe and probably most of the planet, and that is that going to see friends and loved ones is probably the most important thing on everyone's agenda. Having not been able to do that for the last 18 months, so wherever that might be, I think I'm going to go visit my friends and my family rather than to pick a city or a country or a destination. So, you know, and that kind of ties into the second part of the answer, which is, you know, what kind of learning or what kind of advice would I give to, or, you know, to our industry and to our colleagues and partners and friends that all are associated with the industry. It has been bruised and battered, and as have we all, emotionally and physically and the rest. So, you know, I would say, you know, keep the faith. We are a social business. Human beings by nature are social animals. And what we love most about our industry will bring us all together again and bring us back. And that is interpersonal interactions. And you know, it's the thing that's a little bit missing. And you know, when that comes back, the love of our industry and the passion and the success will come, you know, back with that as well. So we're very much looking forward to the day that we can give each other a hug, we can shake the hands of our favorite guests, we can see familiar faces again, and we can gather together as teams and celebrate, meet, or even critique our performance reviews or whatever it might be. But just the very act of getting back together again will really change all of our feelings and change the landscape of our future. So looking forward to that.
Excellent. Well, thank you, thank you, Bruce, and thank you, Cleofe, for those nuggets of wisdom, some good sage advice, and awesome panel discussion. And thank you for joining us.